Malo tau ma'u, malo soifua. Welcome everyone to the live digital Kava session on the Polynesian Eyes podcast. I am Mr. Aotearoa, straight from New Zealand, Auckland, Manurewa. Tua, how's your evening going? How are you doing?
It is doing good. Um, it's been a good week. Been busy with work, but excited to join the Polynesian this evening
Yeah.
and have another live digital kava session here, Mr. Aotearoa.
Very, very nice. I know it's been a busy week too. I've just kind of starting to get to the routine of getting back to work. Last week, been gone to the US of A, transitioning to Australia too for my flights to get to the US, but back to work here in New Zealand, and also very happy to do another live digital cover session with everyone this evening. But yeah, welcome all the viewers. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, and X. So if you have any questions or anything, put them through, and we'll be happy to discuss it. But other than that, welcome everybody. Tua, anything in particular you want to talk about or anything?
Yes, I'll keep reminding this as we go through the live here, especially for those on YouTube.
Hmm.
We are monetizing this live digital kava session. So what that means, if you have a super chat and you throw it into the comments, whether we like the question or not, it will be answered. So that's if you're willing to, liri hagi koini to the discussion,
Oh, you
it
gotta
will
add.
be recognized and it will be answered. So
Okay.
that's probably the biggest thing I want to bring up um, from my end, Mr. Aotearoa.
No, awesome. I know we before we kind of get into the topics for this live digital cover session, I know we are gonna start going through some interviews that we have
Mhm.
starting tomorrow and a later one in the week. But just for our viewers to just to be aware of. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to any other announcements before we get into the topics of discussion for tonight.
No, we will have another live tomorrow night.
Okay.
So just for everyone, it's one of the few times we can forecast. We're gonna have another live, and that live will be with Rockstone, Makatuhalamaka, and we're gonna walk through kind of the Tu'i Lau and the Tu'i Neiau
Mm,
installation and kind of go
yes.
through some of the videos of those events that happened in the Lau group,
Yeah.
and then also look at some of the history, the genealogy, and the history that
Mm,
Tonga and Fiji share, and just have a good discussion there. Um,
mm,
Rockstone has a lot of interest and some knowledge on the genealogical ties and the titles in Tonga that are connected to Fiji. So that should be a fun live, and we are looking to have it kind of the late evening. Let me double check on the calendar real quick because we do have it on the calendar.
yeah, I believe it's
Um,
tomorrow.
yes, it's tomorrow, 9 p.m. Pacific, so 10 p.m. Central, which will be, I believe, Mussy. That's early
Four
afternoon for you, late
4 o'clock.
afternoon,
Yes, later
4 o'clock,
afternoon. 4 o'clock New Zealand time. Yep.
10 4. Hey, UTOL says Malo Kautamba. Malo
Hello.
Toko, thank you for
Oh,
stopping by the live digital kava session.
yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Aotearoa. If you don't have anything else, maybe we will get into our first let me see
Topic
here, our
of
first
discussion.
topic. Yeah.
Let's get
So
into it.
this one's kind of interesting, and this is this video for context. There's some tension. Obviously Jason Momoa is coming out with the new Chief of War, right? It should be premiering on
August,
Apple August 1st.
correct?
So it's around the time frame of King Kamehameha, but it's not directly on King Kamehameha, at least on these set of episodes. It's about one of the war chiefs under King Kamehameha. And so that's the storyline there. Jason Momoa, he's Hawaiian. I don't know, is he anything else? Is he Hawaiian Samoan or what is he?
I think he's like Hawaiian Palangi mix only. I
Okay.
don't think there's a other Polynesian heritage that he's kind of part of, to my understanding.
Okay. Perfect. So he has made this a big part of his career. He said he's been working on this
Yeah,
for 10 years, 10 years in the making.
it was part of being Aquaman to get to this point, so that he would have
Yes,
a reputation somewhat. So it's pretty cool.
100%.
Mm,
And what I find funny, and we'll get to the video here very shortly. I think this is the one of the negatives of victim mentality and this idea of not basing things on merit, but basing it on quote unquote representation. That you get caught up in silly stuff, right? You have this great thing that opens up the world to the Polynesian nation's history. Obviously, this is Hawaii. The Polynesian Empire has fallen by then in the 18th century.
mm-hmm.
But then instead of celebrating that, we find ways to snatch defeat out of a potential win. And what I mean by that is there's some drama between Hawaiians being upset because there are Maoris acting as the people in the movie. Any thoughts on that, Mr. Aotearoa, before we play the video?
My initial thoughts, Tua. I don't. My personal opinion, really, no issues there. In my preference, I mean, I just see us as Polynesians. We can interact. Like I said, it's almost like we can't speak on Maori. Remember, we were gone after for speaking maybe issues with Maoris, but like I mentioned before, well, we're
Mhm.
Polynesians. We all are the same people. We can relate. There's no other ethnic group people that can relate to Maoris other than a Tongan, a Samoan, a Fiji. You know what I mean? Because we're all one heritage people. So it's kind of like that mentality to us that we can't speak on other people's issues because they see themselves as totally opposite when we are one people, and it doesn't matter if you get a Maori from Aotearoa acting on somebody in Hawaii. It does take some effort to maybe understand certain nuances because each island kind of had a certain nuance, but we were all
Mhm.
one people, kind of like a. I think you put it perfectly, Tua, with the village mentality. One village is a little different than the other village, but we're all the same big happy family kind of thing. So that's just me. That's just me kind of exploring on that question, Tua, and my thoughts there.
Yeah, and this is the thing too. It gets kind of silly because I feel like people use that as a easy excuse to not discuss an idea,
Mm,
right? Like even if we weren't Polynesian, we're all human beings, right? We
mm-hmm.
all can have an opinion, an idea. Now, granted, some people will take some people's ideas and opinions at a higher level than others, right? Like one would assume if you're
Yeah,
talking about Polynesian things, maybe you would value a Polynesian's input, but also you might value an outsider's opinion in certain instances because it's an outsider perspective. It's all different things. So sometimes we
that's
get
true.
so silly on, oh, you can't act in the Maori in the Hawaiian movie because you're Maori, rather than saying, hey, how about we just find the best actor that can make the story interesting and get more people to watch, rather than
Mm.
saying it has to be Hawaiian or so forth. But anything to add to that, Masi, before we look at the video?
Nope, not this time, Tua. Let's watch that video.
All right, I think I got the sound up. Let me know if we don't hear the sound.
Okay.
E ho'o ka hua ia. that we're going to get that. Hey, what are you Māoris doing playing Hawaiian roles?
Yeah, no.
And Kamehameha Jason kia hau. Tawa e hoa. Tawa. We're the same people. And I had to think, ka tika te kōrero. Ka tika te kōrero. No kahiki tātou. Tētahi ka huri ki te tai tokerau. Wētahi o mātou ki te tai, we headed south. Wētahi, the Rapa Nuians went east. But in the beginning, hey, we're the same people.
Our tupunai, our ali'i, our ardiki, they're connected. Our whakapapa runs throughout Te Moana Nui a Kiwa and very strong connections with Hawaii. So I think it rekindles and reawakens us in a unified sense. That's the vision of Pa'a and Momoa. You know, they cast us because they purposely and consciously wanted to reawaken our connections.
I was hesitant at first because I told Jason, bro, get Hawaiian actors. You need Hawaiian actors. Get Cliff Curtis. You need Cliff Curtis on this project. So I was hesitant. I wasn't quite sure if I was able to meet the standard of the Olelo Hawaii so a fluent Hawaiian speaker could watch and go, kai te pai tēnā. Kua ea, kua pai, kua tika. Kua tika, Māori.
Nice. They seem to align themselves. Morrison, I don't know the other guy's name, the two Maori actors. They seem to align with our kind of whole general purpose of an idea of the Polynesian Eyes podcast. You know, we are all one Polynesian nation in the beginning, and then we just kind of, you know, once we had settled islands and stuff, we still had some connections to the origin, which is the Tu'i Tonga, but we all kind of exercise our kind of unique own maybe cultural practice that's maybe unique to our islands. But overall, we are all kind of one people, one Polynesian nation. But that's kind of my thoughts there, Tua. That's what I was thinking. They seem to align with our idea there. What's your thoughts?
Once again, we just want a good movie. We just want a good show, right? Like this, and this is the problem, I guess. I don't know if it's because it's just part of being colonized or what, like you're overly defensive that you miss the point. The point is you're getting the world to understand your culture and you still have to be entertaining, right? I'm sure that, you know, if Jason Momoa could find, because these Maori guys are acting in good. I mean, once were warriors. They're in Neo. What's the one? Matrix. The Matrix. They're in all kinds of movies.
Star Wars. I think Star Wars too.
Star Wars too, right? Like these are talented individuals. That's like saying, if you're not Maori, you can't play on the All Blacks. Right? Like, do you know how the brand of the All Blacks would suffer? Just look at all the Polynesians that are non-Maori that have left New Zealand and gone overseas. Charles Piutau, when he was the best player, right? Now you have Richie Mo'unga going to Japan. You can't tell me that doesn't impact. We need to focus on what's important and stop focusing on the wrong thing. You know, it's like you can't take the win when you get it. It's like, dude, just realize like what this brings to the Hawaiian culture and the Hawaiian history. People will maybe ask more questions. Maybe they'll say, hey, how did we get Hawaii again as part of the United States? Maybe people will be more interested, and maybe you'll get more support for, you know, there's a pretty strong movement right now of, you know, the illegal overtaking of the Hawaiian kingdom, you know, but that to me I thought was interesting. Just missing the point. It's like you can't take the win. Like you just have to find a way to lose.
No, and this is a good step to it, because to my understanding, depending on how this series goes, I think they're gonna find out in December, ending of this year, once they lodge it, to see if they're gonna keep continuing with the series. Because I think they've only done one series, season 1, and then if they're gonna see in how it goes, with Apple, because I think Apple is the main funder of this. They're gonna decide if they're gonna make multiple seasons. But like what you said, Tua, this is the main thing is They're doing a series and story of general, pretty much, of Kamehameha and
Yeah,
Hawaiian culture and Hawaiian history. That is Polynesia. That's a story for all of us, and that's pretty cool to make it to a big time screen, and not only that, be funded. Look, and it looks like it's funded really well. And this is only done because of Jason Momoa and his influence in the Hollywood and acting industry, along with, you know, I think you can say the two biggest Polynesian actors are The Rock and Jason Momoa, and Jason Momoa was able to pull this out relatively quickly because he was still up and coming. So it just shows Jason Momoa really wanting to put something out for his Hawaiian history and Hawaiian culture. And if you think about it, that's a lot faster than The Rock's been acting for a long time, and
yeah.
he's been doing more of the Moana
American
animation stuff.
Samoa. Well, and
Yeah.
then he did that movie where they went to Samoa. I can't remember what the
That thing. But this is a first movie that is really like, some
historical.
true events, historical, some oral history. So I give to me, like what you said, too, they're missing the mark. Jason Momoa doing this for the amount of time that he's been acting in the, was able to pull the funding and just do this from a Polynesian story from the beginning to the end in this first season, and I hope more seasons come. And who knows? These are the things that can start that will trickle down to do stories of Fiji, of Ha'amoa, or something in Tonga. Something with the Tu'i Tonga Empire. That would be really cool. Or even the historical accounts of George Vason and even William Mariner would be awesome series to shoot if they were able to do something like that. But this is only the beginning, what I see. So those are my thoughts there.
Yep, 100% there. And once again, if you want to guarantee that your comment comes through, we will answer any super chat that comes through. So if you want to throw in a super chat, um, we will definitely answer your question whether we like it or
Mm,
not. So we'll jump in just to a couple questions here before we go on to the next topic. But Devita Toifoki, welcome
mm,
to the live digital conversation. He says there's also a Tongan in the cast. His name is Ikaleo, who acts as Jason's brother. Jason
pretty cool.
Momoa's brother. Yeah. See, I mean, this is a great opportunity for Polynesians in general. You
Yes,
know?
yes, and like I said, to the more Tongan actors we can actually get and participate in these big events and movies, like I said, over time we're gonna gather talent, and then when we have enough, a good amount of maybe Tongan actors or Polynesian actors, they're only gonna look further to look for Polynesian stories. And like I said, the William Mariner account is pretty cool. George Vason's account, and then maybe get to the whole center of the Polynesian nation during the time of the Tu'i Tonga era. So this movie is only going to lift Polynesian actors from all around the world to participate in
Yes.
and upskill.
Yep. Another comment here from Josh E. Malo Josh E. Welcome to the live digital Kava session. Josh E says, no, he was speaking of Maori and Hawaiians coming from Kahiki. Josh, is Kahiki a Polynesian? And is that Kahiki come from where? It's really pretty well established that Polynesians started in Western Polynesia and moved east, right? And
Yeah.
then New Zealand was probably the last place Polynesians settled. So I don't know, what the point is by saying no, coming from Kahiki, but Kahiki is Polynesian. This is like the video where I saw it, I think on TikTok, where it had a Maori girl going, "Do you know how to tell the difference between a Maori and a Polynesian?"
Well, it reminds me of that topic we talked about, Tua. And that's the problem when they say there's Maori and Pacific Islander. We're like, we're all Pacific Islander, my man.
See? And it will be that same person who says that Maoris are different from Pacific Islanders or Maoris are different from Polynesians.
Polynesian.
And that'll be the same person who comes and says, you need to decolonize. You need to reject Christianity. You need to, you need to fight colonization by decolonizing. And I was like, how about you just find out or accept first that we're all the same people? Then we'll worry about the decolonizing.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Mm.
it's funny. It's funny.
No, that's hilarious.
Go ahead. Oh, you can read this one out, Mussy. It's from our official PR
Official
representative.
PR Water Bears, always good to have you on. Togoua, Malo Tokos, Tony Finau will appear on Happy Gilmore too. Okay, I knew Happy Gilmore was coming out, Water Bears, but I did not know that Tony Finau is gonna be in it. That's pretty cool. Tua,
That, that
what are your
is,
thoughts?
yeah, that is pretty cool. And I think I saw some snapshots of that. Tony and his son, I think, are
Oh,
gonna be on the video. Um,
mm,
that's another, Polynesian that's breaking into a new sport that kind of cool to see Polynesians break into. Um, have you ever met Tony Mussy?
no, I was gonna say, don't you have some personal interactions with him, Tua, that you don't mind
Yeah,
sharing for everybody?
yeah. I met him once, maybe twice. Um, when we were living in San Antonio, there's the Valero Open. That's right
Mm-hmm.
where our house in San Antonio is. And he and his cousin Siwa, they visited us or were visiting the ward, and I happened to be wearing a ta'awala. And so they came by and said hi and
Mm,
met him. And then we invited that first year that they came over, Tony and his family and his cousins to come over to the house. We had dinner. Tony seems like a pretty nice guy.
mm,
Seems pretty kind and generous with his time. I went to go watch him at the Valero Open, which was a lot of walking. After that first one, I didn't go back. I don't think I went back. I think that's the second time around. His cousin was generous to give us some more tickets. I think I gave it to
oh,
someone else to go. But yeah, Tony's pretty nice. So it's cool to see him kind of progress in his career, develop his brand, and then start getting into the culture,
yeah,
American
yeah.
culture, and have that influence.
Yeah. No, and that's pretty cool, Tua. Thank you for sharing that your encounters with Tony Finau. But I know since we're on the Tony Finau topic, have you heard like I guess he had some beef with the way Netflix portrayed his wife and kids kind of affecting his kind of ability to perform during the PGA tour or something like that. I just read something briefly and I know that was a thing that he did not like what Netflix was doing or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, it was kind of portraying negatively because Tony takes his family with him. Like I
Yes.
said, when he came to San Antonio, it was him, his wife, his
Mm,
kids, a bunch of cousins, and everybody. We all had them over for dinner at the house. But that's part of being a Polynesian, right? And that's
yeah.
that's what I think we bring to the table that's different from other people is you can view it as, oh, it's a distraction. Because I think they portrayed it as having his family with him was a negative
Yes.
and it
Yes.
distracted him. And if having his family there meant he wasn't serious, like that's kind of I did read through an article that kind of said that. But
Mm,
yeah, for me personally, I was just like, well, that's what makes us different from everyone else.
yes.
We see family as the mechanism by which we're able to achieve what we're doing. Guess what? This is the same thing, Mussy, that our ancestors did in populating the Polynesian Triangle. What did we do?
Mm,
We went with our family. We took
yeah.
very dangerous journeys into the largest ocean of the world, and we went with families and we settled all the islands in Polynesia. So for someone to come and say, "Oh, that's distracting," it's like, no, no, no. Maybe it's distracting for you. We're not saying it's bad.
Mm,
You're making a bad choice if you decide to leave your family behind. We're just saying that's not how we do it. That's not what we value.
mm,
And I think I saw even a short snippet of Tony saying, "Yeah, that's just the way he rolls."
mm.
With that being said,
Awesome.
want to recognize this, Malo Water Bears.
Water
Appreciate
bears.
it. The super chat
Mahalo.
right there. And his comment is, like we said, My little leaf for the Kava tokos. Oh yeah, with Malo Water Bears.
Malo, water bears, malo.
The comment will go to make a digital Kava bag purchase for future live Kava sessions. So as we mentioned earlier, this bag and this bucket is sponsored by Water Bears. Malo Pito.
Malo, water bears.
Let me see here. We got anything else to add to that, Mr. Aotearoa?
No. Good on Tony Finau, at least sharing that he was not happy with that portrayal of him and his family, but he's living the culture, man. That's what you call living the culture. When you're at the height of your professional career, you're in big time tournaments. You bring your family. That's what Polynesian. That's what we've always do. We we want to be around with our families because these tournaments can go for because right after that tournament he goes to a different state, so you can go like with a whole month not seeing your families. And Polynesians, we value family. That is what is important. And every year, especially in Western countries, every year we are losing the idea and value of family. So that's one contribution Polynesians can do throughout the Western countries that we live in, is to make sure and we tell society that families are very important, because families is what makes you you and unique, and you are a lot happier. You know.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, we for being such a small group of people, I mean that there's such a huge influence, and to me, honestly, it doesn't make sense. I think it's awesome and it's cool, but I guess we all think we can be a little biased. Polynesians, super athletic, generally speaking, usually very nice, very family oriented, right?
We
Very
know how to
religious.
relax. We know how to
We
have fun. Know how to relax.
we
You
know how to
know.
eat,
Yes.
right? We know how to eat, but and then we can say, oh yeah, that's right, we're so likable, but it's mind blowing to me for how small a group that we are in seven, almost 8 billion people in the world
Mm. Hmm.
to just have this huge impact. And like you were saying, Masi, it would be so sad if we forget what makes us different,
Yeah.
right? It makes us different that we do those things that Tony is doing, that we are saying, no, you don't have to choose family over being successful in a professional career. You can have both, right? Tony has won some tournaments while he's out
Yeah.
there, right? He's been very successful in doing so. So, a couple more interesting comments to bring here. Water Bear says, "Send my leave for the Kava Tokos Mari super chat." I know, because of the
Malo.
fantastic support from the Polynesian, we're able to get those features unlocked. Mr. Aotearoa, can you announce this one?
Ooh, yes, sir. This is from Tevita Toifoki, Australian $50. Malo, Tevita, hori mai daw Kava. Appreciate your contribution for this live digital Kava session on the Polynesian Eyes podcast. Malo T.
Yes, he
Uh,
says, "Malok ang
yes.
tama nga, wala himehen na si ipapel at mas lady
Iyo,
mas
iyo, iyo papel au pito. Sydney T. Okay, yes, papel ape by Sydney, Australia. Malo T. Appreciate it, man.
Speaking, I think this is a perfect transition with these super chat contribution. There
Uh,
is we look at Liahona just had their Kolistutuku, right? Their alumni meeting. I think, was it in California? Was it in the Bay Area?
no, Utah, Utah, Utah.
Utah. Oh yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so it was
that
in
was their
Utah.
big. Yeah.
So it was in Utah, and I find something very interesting here. Let me see if I can find the specific TikTok video. But kind of, this is a perfect example of Polynesians being such a small group, but having such a huge impact, and being such a small group, but covering such a large piece of land and navigating northern and
Mm,
southern hemisphere and just punching above our weight is this video right here. And let's listen through it real quick.
Post real quick about Liahona this, and I wanted to make sure that I show my love and respect to Liahona. But if you all know, Liahona just raised a record year of donation, reporting that they raised $1 million plus. That tells you that if you focus, anything is possible. And I have nothing but love and respect for Liahona. Even though my parents didn't go to Liahona, they went to Saineha. The biggest takeaway from this event is that even though we hear a lot of people talking about that we're struggling because it's a low economy and all these excuses that people can talk about, if you can see Liahona, everybody was going all out. Everybody was putting their efforts into this. And I can tell you right now that that is such a huge, huge accomplishment for Liahona. And to know that this has been going on for generations now, there is no excuse out there for anyone to say that we have a bad economy right now. Because if Liahona can do it, it tells you that anything is possible, because 99% of us Polynesians are at a poverty level. Liahona is showing that it is possible. Focus on yourself and continue to grow. Focus on your business and yourself. I'm telling you, it's going to grow. Ofa'atu, let's go. I quickly want.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Aotearoa?
Actually multiple things. The what Liahona raised was, it was put together. So Liahona and Saineha are pretty much the same kind of schools. They're run by the LDS school. Tongatapu is where Liahona is at, and Saineha is in Vava'u. So they're kind of the same thing. And when they did their alumni event in Utah, it was put together, the Saineha alumni and the Liahona alumni. I'm interested with that 1 million if it's in Paanga, because I thought it was more around that 450 USD, which will kind of equate to about $1 million Paanga, because that money is going to get funneled back to Tonga. And
Oh,
this is a good example too, when we talked about the remittance that flows back to the kingdom, and that money will help. If you think some people are poor, there's other people who are much more unfortunate, that's going to help with their school fees and just help with
mm-hmm.
their school uniform and sandals and stuff. So those are my thoughts there. Good message, like what he shared. I agree 100%. If there's something that we Tongans value, that we want to achieve, we can do it. Another example I can share, Tua, I think, to my understanding, the Fofo'anga New Zealand group here in New Zealand, in Auckland, purchased a building that was 1 point something million dollars, New Zealand dollars. They were able to, that Faikawa Fofo'anga Faikawa group was able to purchase that building to have it their own, instead of having it at somebody else's house. So, hey, that's another example of some of the Faikawa guys, especially the Fofo'anga, right? The Fofo'anga, there's probably two Kava clubs that is the biggest and probably well run. It's the Fofo'anga Faikawa clubs and Kolokakala. But just to hear that they were able to purchase that over $1 million New Zealand building in Otahu, to my understanding, open it up and have a place for people that club members of the Fofo'anga gather. So that's another example of what the Koshi Tutuku Rehona was able to achieve with that fundraising. But yeah, those are my thoughts, Tua. Any
Yeah.
anything different?
Yeah, man. I mean, first off, that gentleman that was speaking right there, he does some interesting stuff online. I can't remember his name, but he does flipping of homes. I think that's his
Ah,
cyber truck. I think he drives around in a cyber truck. Does pretty well for himself, and so
nice.
kind of cool to see some of the things that the Polynesians are doing in the content creation space. And going along with what you're saying, I mean, $1 million is $1 million. Maybe it's $1 million paanga, but that's a ton of money for a little high
Ton of
school.
money.
on a little island in the middle of nowhere.
And not only that, that's the high school that's probably the most well furnished and probably get the most
Yes.
updated things, like, and then just having that money on top of that, that's what you maintain, making sure that you're always on top, that you're not, that Leahona is probably not too different from a lot of the other schools outside of Tonga. So,
Yeah. And and
yeah.
and just to think, and I want to show, I mean, before I show this next video here, just imagine this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about, that being unified and being committed together to push in the same direction, it makes a big difference. It's not always about how big of a population or whatever, and that's kind of the driver maybe behind the impact that Polynesians are having around the world, on a scale much larger than the size of our people. It's just that unity and that unification. Like, you raise $1 million because all the alumni love the high school and they're dedicated, and they're willing to sacrifice and they're willing to push that goal or that thing that unites them to the next level.
Mm,
And that's something that I think is really important. That's something that is unique to us, that we provide, is that willingness to mamahi mea, or to
yeah.
sacrifice for something greater than ourselves. And I wanted to show this other video because it's just funny, right? And it's a few seconds, it's about 30 seconds, but this is from that event. When we talk about make it rain, right? This is what we call make it rain.
Oh, Fat Joe.
I think this is the Hawaii alumni.
Hawaii chapter, eh?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's a ton of money when you're using the floor sweeper to sweep the money.
Yep. No, and that's what's the definition we kind of go with? That's when you have a chapter in Hawaii, when they're very mafana. They're just gonna leave everything on the floor. They worry about tomorrow when it comes. Eh?
It's
That's,
mini
that's
for
how
2 months, but at least we
you.
threw it in the air. Like, imagine that going nonstop for 10, 12 minutes, and doing that for that amount of time. And what's crazy? A lot of those guys, it's hard to see them in this view, but I saw another view.
Mm,
I know a lot of those guys, and you know what they do for work?
what do they do?
Yate amaka.
Mm,
These guys
mm,
make a ton of money. It doesn't seem like it, but a lot of these guys make a ton of money when they make those yate and that
yep.
amaka work, man. I'd probably say, pretty damn close to 90% maybe of all the rock walls in Hawaii are probably done by these guys that go to this
Wow.
alumni section here, and that's a ton of money that they
Yeah.
make. So these guys have done really well for themselves, and you would think, this is what I think is funny, Masi. You would think that these guys grew up in Tonga building rock walls,
Yeah.
right? Like, this is something, but the truth is, they came to Hawaii looking for a way to feed the family, found a way, learned a way, created a way, which, once again, that is how things are done. That's how an empire is built, and you sustain it for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
When new challenges come, you have to develop a new way to survive in the new environment. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't
Very
know.
cool.
T's over here, Mr. Aotearoa, you want to read T's comment here real quick?
Yes. Welcome, Tees. This is his comment. This is the largest and spacious building in Lehi's vision. I like that one, Tees.
And here's a
Wow.
follow-up comment there.
Large and spacious activities. Oh, wow. These we'll find out when we move on from this life if you're true, eh? But I'll remember that one and let's see if the Leahona and Sainiha Kostutuku think the same way.
Yeah, you would think these people coming from Liahona would know that a little bit more, but maybe you're true, Tease. Maybe you're true. We'll find out. But anyways, at the end of the day, congratulations to Liahona on setting a record, $1 million.
Mm,
But pretty dang cool to see. I do think it's ironic, like you're saying, Masi, the most well-funded school in Tonga is Liahona, and they're the ones raising the most amount of money too, right?
yeah,
Because the church pretty much finances all of that. So maybe all that money is going to go to scholarships. A
yeah.
lot of kids from the outer islands come in Akonofo Ma'u at Liahona. So
And
yeah,
another
that could
and
probably
another
go
thing,
there.
yes, and another thing I noticed with Leahona, they're having more funding to fund a different variety of sports. When they had their sports, Leahona had a huge participation. When they had their sports day for the high school. So I know a
Mm,
lot of that money trickles in to get pay something for the coach, maybe get kids to come to their school. I mean, it's Leona is having a lot more people participating in a variety of sports instead of your typical running and shot put and stuff. And was it rugby was kind of the only thing. But I've noticed Leona is having a lot more people participating in a different kind of sport. So I know that money is making a huge difference in Tongatapu, in Leona and Saineha too.
yeah. Real quick, just a quick comment before we go to our next topic, and it's great segue talking about sports. Um, but hey, once again, if you do want us to make sure we make a comment, if you or answer your question, please throw it in the super chat, and we will guarantee to share your comment if you throw it in the super chat. Speaking about
Mm.
sports and Polynesians and fundraising, you know what? Maybe Moana Pacifica just needs to get adopted by Liahona alumni. So the, the next topic that we're gonna watch the video here real quick is, Moana Pacifica's probably had their most successful season ever, right? I mean, it was high energy. They had some exciting games, stadiums,
Probably the
pretty damn
fullest.
close to
Yeah.
full. And then
Yes.
not just full, but the engagement of the fans. It almost
Yes.
looked like an NRL game, right? With the engagement of the fans. But there seems to be some drama there, Mr. Aotearoa, despite having the most successful year.
Mm.
What's going on with Moana Pacifica?
I know there's some I think ethical issues or making sure monies are used properly because there is this social provider I think Pacifica Futures, which is a big social provider that funds other um like other social providers. So it's kind of like the money, this Pacifica Futures kind of owns this money that gets from government, and then there's other like branches that have Pacific or Polynesian social providers that provide like social work for certain communities in this region, and that.
Mm,
So the money comes to this Pacifica Futures, and Pacifica Futures is kind of like the main sponsor for Moana Pacifica
Pacifica.
team, and they're saying they're using they're alleging that Moana Futures, whatever, is using that government money that was meant to go to the social providers, to these other clinics and social workers in different regions. And instead, that money is being used to go and fund Moana Pacifica, which is government money. So that's kind of the issue there with that. But in my personal opinion, the government gives you the money. I think Moana Pacifica is a Pacifica team. It's helping people in a different well-being or whatever. To me, I don't see any issue there. But maybe there is maybe certain outline in the agreement that
Mm,
that the Pacifica Future and the government had when they released these funds that was only maybe it was only supposed to go to specific areas in the region and maybe not a sports entity. If that's there, then that's kind of hard to argue. But if not, I don't see any issues. Giving the money to Moana Pacifica. That's my thoughts, but I know that's the issue at the moment, and I think it's in litigation.
So if I understand correctly, it's government funds that goes to a nonprofit or NGO that's supposed
Yes,
to serve the community and help build up the community. And what you're saying, Mr. Aotearoa, is well, funding Moana Pacifica improved the community. People were happier, people were engaged in the community. So unless it specifically said no sports, you're saying, hey, it seemed to do some good there.
yeah, that's kind of where I was
Okay.
coming across. So exactly right there, you hit it on the target right there, Tua. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna watch a video here on some feedback and some ideas on what Moana Pacifica is going through and maybe what they can do. I'm kind of critical about the idea that's expressed here, but let's look at this video.
Okay.
You've all seen the headlines. Moana Pacifica is in financial trouble. TPK has launched an investigation and the PMH here has finally spoken up. But let's be clear, this is not a sports issue. This is a front of office problem. Moana had an incredible season. They lit up competition, brought pride to our people, and showed the world that Pacific talent isn't just competitive, it's essential. So why is that team that gave us all this mana struggling to stay afloat? New Zealand rugby needs to step up, not just with words, but with real financial backing, because Moana isn't just a rugby team. It represents the blood, sweat, and history of Pacific peoples who have given generations of service to New Zealand sport. If they can't get the support they need here, then maybe it's time to open the door to private investment. The American market is hungry for cultural stories and international flair. Why not let Moana fly where it can thrive? Whatever happens, one thing is clear. Moana Pacifica adds massive value to this competition on and off the field. Now, the question is, will that value be respected or left to sink?
Okay.
Mm, mm.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Aotearoa?
Um. Ooh. The thing is, I know NZRU is probably struggling financially too.
That's what
So I
I
don't
was
know.
thinking too.
Yeah, and I don't know if he understands that. I don't know they're able to give whatever money, and it's probably their fault for not investing earlier when things were a lot better. Because rugby overall as a sport is not trending upwards; it's actually trending downwards. So you're already fighting an uphill battle. So I don't know if that thought is there to this gentleman, because to me it's already an uphill battle because rugby overall is trending down. You just look at the the Super Rugby attendance in the stadiums. It's horrendous. Um, with the exception of Moana Pacifica, but so I don't know if NZRU has the financial means to give anything right now to the Moana Pacifica. So right now he's probably right in the sense that it's only a private investment. If that most likely will probably be in America or something to kind of fund Moana Pacifica, but it's going to be very difficult to ask for a huge amount of money in a small market like New Zealand. It would have to be something different, maybe doing some games somewhere else, or I don't know, because even rugby in Australia is trending down too, because that will be your other bigger market. But that's the thing. That's the challenge to me, Tua, is when you're gonna put acts, because you do have a good product. A product is,
Mm-hmm.
we all know Polynesians, our athletic ability is top notch compared to any other ethnic group. We give a flair. We give something amazing for the people to see. But the product doesn't mean anything if no one else can get access or can watch you. And New Zealand being in a small market, Australia is somewhat bigger, but the thing is, rugby overall is not doing so well. I don't know how rugby is doing in the European countries, but you would have to, if you're going to ask for private funding or private investment, it's going to be a little bit tricky, and there'll probably be a lot of strings attached to it, and it would be whoever, most likely NZRU, because they're kind of the main representatives for Moana Pacifica in their competition, to decide. They're going to have to do the way they've been doing rugby for the past 30, 40 years is going to, have to change a lot with if they're going to ask for private investment, because rugby overall is not trending upward. So that's just my thoughts there, too. I don't know if you had anything
Mm.
different or expand on that.
Yeah, my thoughts are the Moana Pacifica had a great season, but that's like their
Mm.
first great season. You aren't gonna fix everything with one good season. You
Tua,
need you
Tua,
need
Tua,
multiple.
I have one thing. Sorry to interject, Tua, but I was gonna say
Yeah.
it's a good season, but they didn't make the playoffs.
That shows how bad the product has been, right?
I know it sounds good, but they didn't even make it to the playoffs, to my understanding. But hey, they did the number one thing. They filled that. They had the most. We can say they were number one with the most full stadium in all of Super Rugby. I think we can give them
Yes.
one number one for that. Eh?
Yeah, you can get and the engagement of the fans,
EOS
right?
and the engagement, EOS. But go ahead, Tua.
Let,
It's my bad.
let me kind of put some perspective on this, right? The New Zealand brand. When rugby in a rugby nation is struggling, that's a problem,
Mm,
right? Like, just think of that. New Zealand is a rugby nation, and rugby is struggling in New Zealand. That to me says there's structural problems there, right? Like, this is, you could have the best team in the world and it won't matter because you're not selling seats in the stadiums. And here's a prime example. Like you were mentioning, the All Blacks are having financial problems,
yeah.
right? They had a sponsor pull out in the middle of their sponsorship, and there were talks about suing them and so forth. And you're talking about the number one brand in rugby, the most winning, the most recognized brand, and they're struggling with sponsorship. And you're telling me Moana Pacifica, that's why Moana Pacifica is having challenges. It's not just them, it's the whole rugby
Yeah.
brand. And I don't know if it's the model or the rules or world rugby. I don't know if it's just one area you have to fix. It seems like you have to
Mm,
fix it
mix
across
of
the
everything.
board.
Yes, across the board.
Bad
Yeah.
eligibility rules, right?
Yeah.
The lack of engagement with all the talent in all of the world, and then really the models, like, they don't have a successful model. Like, the closest, I think, the European model is more like, find a really rich guy,
Mm,
find a millionaire slash billionaire. He bankrolls it, but then he also drives it and makes decisions on how the club spends money, kind of like how the smaller soccer teams in
mm,
Europe are run. And that seems to be a model that is sustainable. Where I see where rugby union struggles is when they try to go and they try to compete in a capitalistic manner. Like, just
mm.
look at Super Rugby. We find out later that it was basically South Africa that was carrying Super Rugby. And the moment South Africa left, what happened to Super Rugby? It collapsed,
Mm,
right? And then
mm,
Australia was struggling. And so you're pretty much left to New Zealand and Australia. The only reason why they turned to Fiji and Tonga and Samoa is because they had no other option. They had to do something. So that's why I don't give them a lot of credit. Some people earlier were like, we got to credit New Zealand Rugby Union for
mm,
sponsoring Pacifica Talent. I was like, no, that's why I hate New Zealand Rugby Union, because they were abusive to,
mm,
to Samoans and Tongan talent for all those years. And so they only went to Fiji and Tonga and Samoa when they had zero options. But even then, they can't even fund themselves. So why do you think they can grow a market
yeah.
in New Zealand with a Pacifica team? Honestly, if I was involved in New Zealand Rugby Union, I would be sending people from NZRU to go and attend some NRL
NRL.
games, go and observe, figure out something. Something's got to change. And I don't know what it is, but if you can't even get New Zealand fans to get excited, you're not going to get anyone excited about it. And then to say, oh, private investment from the US, there's a high standard. High
Yeah,
investment means you have to have a return on investment. And like you said, very difficult to see what that path is with a New Zealand rugby union team. I really don't know, right? Now,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, I was gonna say to a idea just popped up. Maybe if Moana Pacifica approach one of these NFL franchise owners and just say, "Hey, if you see a young kid or something that you want, we need your money to invest here and there." And then the NFL guy owners, they're rolling in billions of dollars. Funding a Super Rugby team is gonna be pennies or peanuts to them. But if they see like a next Jordan Mailata, and I think there's some like Australian um, guys from Samoan descent that are I guess being approached by NFL scouts. That could be something. I'm trying to think. There has to be a benefit. You can't just go and ask for money thinking they're gonna love Polynesians like you love Polynesians. That's the mindset, you know. And this helps when you live. This helps when you've been in bigger countries and understand like, these people do not care what if you're a Polynesian, you love their sport. They have to think if they're gonna put millions of dollars, they have to think what they're gonna get in return and
yeah,
something that's gonna because of the success, and this is huge, the success of Jordan Mailata, the possibility of him being a top left tackle in the NFL, maybe tie in something that they can get access to your players, and then they come into a training camp if they see a very talented
potential.
person. So yes, that's what I'm trying to think in order to kind of keep this Super Rugby thing going. So those
So
are
what you're
my
saying, Mussy, is they need to figure out a way to be creative, not just
yeah
sit back and do the same old model.
yeah. Yeah, but yeah, when
You
you ask
know,
for money, it's not gonna be something just give your money to watch us thrive in New Zealand or in the rugby competition here. It's gonna be have to be a lot more, and that's what I'm saying. And because rugby has tend to they're very slow to change, they're not proactive or anything. It's gonna probably be too much that maybe they won't even take it. But when you're desperate enough, you're willing to change everything or clean house or whatever. But
yeah.
yeah,
No,
well,
100% agreed there. 100% agreed. And that's the thing is, you know, should the investors come with the only allowing their ethnic group to participate because like the Hawaiians are saying the Maoris can't play Hawaiian people, you know?
uh,
You got to think like no, they don't care. If you can provide the talent, they'll bring the money. But like you were saying, you can't just stand there and be a subsidy. They have like the mentality of the those who just rely on subsidies from the government. And it
yeah.
sounds like NZRU was pretty much subsidized by the government for forever. And maybe that's where those bad habits got developed. They just thought, oh, we don't have to worry about providing a high quality product or improving fan experience. I don't know, the Uncle Sam version of New Zealand government that they thought just the government would just fund them for
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. Well, and that's kind of been the problem when you have government funding your healthcare system. You got government funding. The government is the main funder for Air New Zealand and a lot of these businesses. And then you add the All Blacks. Government huge government subsidies were given to the All Blacks. So when it gets, the New Zealand economy is still very slow, and when things go slow, things are not as plentiful. But that's because, and then you lose your own innovation and adapt because that's what private
Hmm.
business and private organizations do really well. When the economic environment is not really good, you adapt and change things a lot quickly compared to government. But another thing is, I was also want to touch to because right now rugby in New Zealand and rugby league, in New Zealand, Australia, they're still in arm's reach. And if this is not sorted out, league is gonna league's gonna be so far ahead. It's gonna be very difficult for rugby to get its act together on this side of the world compared
Yeah,
to NRL because that's their competition is the NRL rugby league. So they got to get it sorted out before because right now it's still in the arm's reach. You can try to get fix things to make it competitive and to still pull fans over to watch your product. But man, if things don't change in 2 years or so, I can see league just being way beyond rugby, and they can't catch up.
Well, and this is not the first time I've seen this in my lifetime, Mussy. In like late 80s, early 90s, rugby union was dying at that
Mm,
time, right? And rugby league was at, you know, offering first time to offer like $1 million, I think, to Willie O.
mm,
Willie O chose to stay with the Wallabies and stuff.
mm-hmm.
And the biggest reason why rugby union got bailed out was because of Jonah Lomu showing up on
He
the
brought all
scene.
that attention. He was
He
a
he he rescued rugby union. If it wasn't for Jonah, he showed up this 6'5", 260, run the 110 flat, running over people, running around people, and on a world stage, I think Rupert Murdoch, the guy who owns Fox and
yeah.
stuff, he sees it and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is entertaining." He didn't
Mm.
realize that's just because that's like once in five lifetime type of athlete was on the
He
table.
he's the only rugby global superstar. There hasn't been another person that's even up to the level. It's crazy. I saw a old newspaper that had like the top All Blacks. The number one was Richie McCaw. Even it's so crazy that even the own New Zealand public didn't recognize what Jonah Lomu even
They don't
done.
realize,
He was
no, that's
yeah, he was like number 3 or number 4. I was like, what?
isn't that kind of silly?
That's no wonder NZRU can't do anything right.
That's exactly what I was thinking. If you can't even realize what drove the growth and the expansion of rugby union for like 3 or 4 decades, it was Jonah. You take
Yeah.
away Jonah Lomu from the equation, rugby union might be dead by now.
Let's say this: if Jonah did not, did not participate in rugby, there is no Richie McCaw. There is no what's that Carter. There's none of them. None of those guys exist without Jonah. But Jonah could exist without all of these guys. These guys were piggyback off of Jonah Lomu because he saved rugby with his participation in it. Not
Yeah.
only that, Jonah he acts in little, and that's the thing. I feel bad. I wish Jonah acts for a lot more in return, but and this is the problem when you come from a Polynesian home, humility, and just kind of nodding your head. He should have. And this is the thing: you gotta wear your two different kind of hats. Don't you're gonna get run to the ground if you keep wearing that hat when you're in this society and dealing with this kind of people. You gotta put on your business hat, kind of say. And I wish he asked for a lot more because he gave so
And
much.
he could have.
For
He could have asked. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys offered him probably way more money than his entire career in rugby union, and he turned it down because he wanted to be loyal to the All Blacks, right? He wanted to
Mm,
be loyal, which is, good for him. But maybe, see, and this may be the root cause, Masi, as we're having this conversation. This may be why World Rugby and New Zealand Rugby Union are in the situation they're in. They got this huge injection of investment, TV deals, and all those other stuff without quite earning it.
mm,
They just got it because Jonah was there at the right time, at the right place. So they thought maybe in their mind it was because the game was so great. And so they didn't take a lot of effort to improve the game experience for the customer, for the viewer, like NRL. NRL, video ref, right? 40
mm.
20, all these
Yeah.
things. They've been doing that for decades. Rugby union, it just feels like just yesterday they're adding these things because they weren't thinking of how do we make our game more entertaining? How do we improve the product so that it's a higher return? They just got all that money and all that interest because they had a once in a multi-generation, multi-lifetime athlete that saved their bacon. And now, like you were saying, they don't know how to be creative, like you were mentioning
Mm,
earlier. They don't know how to think out of the box because they just got that huge injection of cash for absolutely nothing.
mm.
So kind of interesting there. I
Yeah.
mean, I love the Moana Pacifica. I hope they're able to figure out this financially, but it's just very difficult for me to see a long-term future for Super Rugby. And when I say long-term future, I'm not saying that the competition will die. I'm just talking about the growth and exposure of the competition. It'll always probably be enough to be a domestic competition. Australia,
Yeah.
New Zealand, you bring in Moana Pacifica. The Fijian teams seem to be doing really well, the two Fijian teams. But in regards to what it was in the glory days of Super Rugby, really hard for me to see that getting back to that.
Did you say two Fijian teams? I thought there was only one, Tua.
No, there's the Fijian Drua, and
Drua.
then is there two? I thought it was Drua,
No.
and there's another one.
I thought it's just one, to my understanding. Unless you're thinking
Oh.
there's another Fiji. I know there's another Fijian team that participates in the competition right under like the feeder teams under the
Oh,
Australian competition, but it's only the Fijian Drua in the Super Rugby.
okay. For some reason, I thought there were two teams, but
Oh,
the
okay,
Fijian
okay.
team. Let's just say looking in the comments, they're saying it's only one. Looks like I stand
Okay.
corrected, but the Fijian team's doing really well. And it's showing, man, and it's who's the biggest winner out of this Super Rugby stuff? Fiji. Fiji is the
Flying
biggest
Fijian.
winner. Yeah, the biggest winner out of that because it's allowed their depth of players to develop while still bringing in the players playing overseas. Um,
And it's probably cheaper to run things in Fiji, being home based in Fiji. Moana Pacifica, it's a mix of Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa, but it's not cheap running a team when you have not much money in New Zealand. So Fiji's probably
yeah,
doing a lot better
well, and,
about
and
better
and
navigating the
Fiji in
financial
the
issues.
in the Pacific, Fiji is a relatively large economy, right? So they have what I think there's 1 million people in Fiji. I think
Yeah,
their population is either just under 1 million, just over. So you got a good sized population, a lot of land, good manufacturing and productivity there overall. And so there's economic opportunity for that in Fiji. So they're benefiting tremendously from it. But
yeah,
hopefully Moana Pacifica figures it out. I think Ardie Savea went to Japan because he had a
yeah.
contractual obligation there. So it's going to be a tough season, unless, there were a lot of young guys who performed really well this year, but we will see how that goes.
No, let's talk about that. What are your? It's weird when they have these things called the sabbatical. You can go play in other countries' domestic competition, but you know how New Zealand still has that rule. You gotta be in Super Rugby to be
Mm.
eligible. It's so weird, and this is kind of the controlling aspect of rugby that's ruining the
They
game
need
and
to
the
get
game's
over it.
progression. They use this term sabbatical that it's pretty much what it's trying to say is they have to give you authorization for you to play somewhere else and you can still be picked as an All Blacks. Talk
Hmm.
about controlling. You look at the way sports is going right now with player movement and stuff, and the All Blacks are still, rugby in general, still operating in the medieval times. That's so funny. It's crazy.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like the carnival version. You know how they use that in like South America and stuff?
Uh,
They give you a couple days to do whatever you want. You just do whatever you want. It's not going to hold it against you. Just go do whatever you want and you'll be forgiven for those. If you want to go and mess around, you want to go
uh,
do drugs, whatever,
uh,
we're going to give you a couple days. Carnival. You go just do whatever. The natural man. We
uh,
won't hold it against you. That's what it sounds like. NZRU. It's like we know you're going to go anyway, so we can't give you that money, but to make it look like I'm still in charge, I'm going to
uh.
give you a sabbatical. And that way it just looks like cutting you some slack. Dude, get over yourself. You need to forget about, oh, I have control over you.
Yeah,
They did this to Jonah. They underutilized Jonah and he still had a tremendous impact.
yeah.
They need to be player focused. They need to forget they think like, hopefully New Zealand Rugby Union is learning this. Your brand is basically the accumulation of the brand of your players. And
Ye-
obviously your brand is suffering because you don't have the superstars to sell your brand and bring interest into your brand. Like, for example, let's do Ardie Savea. Ardie Savea was the brand that elevated Moana Pacifica. I mean, you would see Ardie Savea in foreign teams or away teams field, and you know where all the kids ran to? Did they ran? Did they run to, you know, the Crusaders guys when they were in South Island with the Crusaders? No. Or to the Highlanders? They didn't even go to their local team players. A lot of the kids went to Ardie Savea. And you know why? He did social media. He did all these things, and he was criticized for it. Some people criticize Ardie Savea because he would go on social media and talk about the things he believed in. But that's what the youth walk and see. So when Ardie Savea came into town, they were interested in talking to Ardie Savea, right?
Yeah.
And so his brand elevated the Moana Pacifica brand, and his leadership style attracted young talent to the Moana Pacifica team and just created a good culture. That's why they did so well. But now they've lost him. How are you going to replace that? You know, and that's what NZRU and the All Blacks didn't even really want Ardie Savea. He wasn't even consistently a starter for the All Blacks. Because why? Because he was doing things for out of the box, creating value off the field that NZRU said, yeah, that's not how we do things here. You only do what I tell you to do. And that's why their brand is suffering. And that's why, you know, hopefully the All Blacks will be able to keep paying for the hotels of their players and not be like Tonga's rugby union team. They go to the World Cup and the players have to pay for their own hotel.
What's the word? Maro ofafunua.
Iya. Malo katakilahi, eh? Malo mamahiin mea. You know, you put your body on the line. You have a contract. You feed your family with your body, performing at the highest level. You put your body on the line, getting hurt for your country. Now your last one is just donate to your country one more time. Pay for your hotel before you leave the World Cup. Maria Tonga. Maria Tonga.
Oh, man. I want to touch on some of the things you were saying too, like especially how sports franchises, especially especially the way America runs, like the way they do it, things there, and how they're kind of small-minded here, especially on this side of the world, especially when they run rugby. Who do you think of when you think of the Chicago Bulls? Yeah, Michael Jordan.
Michael
right?
Jordan.
Michael
And
Jordan.
It's not even close.
Not even close. Like Michael Jordan. This is the thing. The Chicago Bulls made Michael Jordan the face of the franchise. And
yes, they wanted to. They
wanted.
paid him to be the face of the franchise.
What do you think of Kobe Bryant, L.A. Lakers,
Yeah.
Magic Johnson, the same thing, right? What do you think of Stephen Curry, the Golden State Warriors? Like, this is the new model to attract fans, to make it exciting. Your brand is only elevated because of the players. It's like it's opposite in the All Blacks. The All Blacks could have used Jonah Lomu, and Jonah Lomu still made a huge impact, but it would have been 10 times
10
better.
times better. Yep.
10 times better if the All Blacks made him the face. But even like now, when you think of the All Blacks, it's like there's really no one outside of Jonah Lomu that's kind of really taking the mantle to take the sport to make other. Because the thing is, you got to make people outside of New Zealand want to watch your sport, because you're not that if not the people from outside ain't watching, you're not growing the sport. So that's kind of my thing there too. Like the mindset is just, it's still very medieval. It's like, dude, they apparently the guys they employ in NZRU are supposed to be these masters and doctorates in business and stuff. And I'm like, dude, how you don't want to send your kids to that school wherever they came from if this is the product they're leaving the All Blacks in a financial. And the way that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They haven't learned. They haven't learned how to do
anything.
stuff in even when you think even though Tom Brady left, but he's the Patriots. Like
Yeah.
he is the Patriots. Tom Brady, like it's the players that make the NFL team elevate. And if the All Blacks were able to, because even that, if they found after the Jonah Lomu and other guys just to elevate them, because Michael Jordan's game was elevated too, knowing he was the face of the Chicago Bulls. Like there's a certain it's almost like mutual benefit when somebody knows they have the pressure of the franchise. Stephen Curry's another one. When he was drafted, he was a skinny crony, and then when he started shooting threes from
And
deep,
the Warriors, they were the garbage team of the NBA. Now they're one of the most valuable brands from one player.
one player, Stephen Curry. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, man, I mean, you don't think it's rocket science, but these guys just make it so keep shooting themselves on the foot with the way they run rugby down on this side of the hemisphere,
And
man. It's so backward.
who they pushed the closest. The only other person I see they kind of pushed was Richie McCaw. And look at what that got them. Did that really elevate the brand? Like, granted, Richie McCaw was a great athlete and a player, but was he someone that was going to just take your game? Here's another
He
a
wasn't.
modern
Well,
day
I was gonna
example. Oh,
say
go ahead, Master.
no. I was gonna say like Mitchell McCall. He did the basic things good, but it wasn't mind
Yeah.
blowing. Like
Wasn't
in order to
superstar power, man.
in order to capture the public, you got to do what Jonah Lomu does. He was 6'5", running at a speed of like a sprinter and running over people. Like that's what McCall never did. McCall just did really well on the basic things, and he did it on a consistent basis. But that's not gonna wow somebody in LA sipping on a $100 whiskey or whatever. That's nothing.
No.
That's it's not gonna capture somebody in New York City flying in a first class on his plane, looking at his phone and seeing, oh, this Richie McCall, he seems like a normal kind of dude. But when they put a Jonah Lomu tape and they say, okay, this is an
This is
athlete.
something special.
This is
This is
cool.
something
Running
different.
over
Yeah.
people, and he's 6'5". 6'5" guys don't run at a sprinter speed at that
Yeah.
level and run over people. Like that's what captured people who don't even know rugby, but they say, dude, I want to watch that. But that's the thing. Rugby fails to recognize that, man.
Mussy, here's another prime example. WNBA. Terrible. And Americans, I'm not a big fan when people say, let's take rugby to America. Masi, the American sports consumer is probably the most high-end, most demanding sports consuming customer you will ever come across because of how much competition there is in America. The expectation or the product has to be very high. You try to bring rugby union that's barely surviving in New Zealand to America and think you're going to capture the American consumer, first improve your product, right? I think the NRL has a better chance to capture the American sports consumers' imagination and interest before rugby union. But to build on the point on the significance of players, look at what Caitlin Clark did for the WNBA.
Change that.
Her rookie season, right? Like I think the average viewership for like the WNBA was like 100,000, maybe even less, maybe 200,000. Every Caitlin Clark game was like close to 1 million or over 1 million viewers. She tripled, sometimes quadrupled the viewership. People
and
were
attendance,
excited.
right? And the attendance.
Everywhere she went, the attendance went skyrocketed. And everywhere she would go, there would be tons of Caitlin Clark fans. She is transforming, and the WNBA is struggling from the same thing that NZRU is struggling with. The WNBA, instead of latching on like the NBA, said, Michael Jordan, that's our ticket. You know, Steph Curry, that's our ticket, right? You look at LeBron James, even though I don't care too much for LeBron, but they said this is a guy that can grow our brand, can increase our value, and you latch on to that. And Caitlin Clark has made the WNBA relevant.
And she her unique attribute and skill was a consistent making the three. Like she was dropping deep threes, right? And people
Yeah,
were kind of like a Stephen Curry, but in the WNBA. So you got to do something that, like, not many women were dropping threes at a consistent basis, like Caitlin Carton. That's what brings fans. But you're gonna be um you're going to be accounted for on the same standard like other sports if you're a male or female. And because people were not too impressed with WNBA doing things, and then Caitlin Clark was sinking threes from deep, it's like,
yeah.
you're going to get people's interest. Tua, and you brought up a good point. It could be, it it could be because, like, NZRU has been latched on government to kind of always fund them that way. The WNBA is the same way. They've always had a many years attachment with the getting subsidized by the NBA. So maybe it's just pulling
Mhm.
off of that to try to, because you got to figure out a way to grow your sport without government subsidies, man, because that's not always going to be there. And like, even like right now, they're struggling now because the economy is not doing so well because of bad. And that's the thing, they're making it, maybe they're being too political to they're politicizing everything, and that's why they're not doing well in the
Focus on the product.
market.
Focus on the
And they're
product.
they're focusing like a typical government with politicking. And
Yes.
don't be too much politicking, man. Let see where the market is at, see where your player is going to take you beyond your borders, and latch on that. Maybe that's the problem. they've been they've been latched on with NZRU being so government funded and run that it's too much politicking.
Yep. No, 100%. Malo Shogun.
Ooh,
Shogun with the
Shogun,
super chat.
malo.
Drop 30 big ones. Australian. Masi papel bito Australia these days, eh?
Taki
Australian economy
Australia.
must be killing it.
Tevita and
So,
Shogun. Taki, man. Malo. Malo
yeah.
off my mind.
Real comment here from Water Bears. He says, Malo Shogun 8 tokos. When can we expect merch? It is on the to-do list. We've discussed it. Water
Okay.
Bears, we will be coming around. Hopefully, we thought the beginning of the move here, I would say give us another 2-3 months.
Mm.
Slowly we'll get there, but great point. Once again, if you really want to make sure we answer your questions, please use the super chats, and I appreciate all the donations here we'll buy the digital Kava bags to
Iyo.
keep running, keep feeding the Kava sessions here.
Iyo.
See,
Malo.
this comment right here, Easy G, and Easy G is listening from Samoa. So
Oi,
welcome,
sole.
welcome.
Malo uso. Alpha tashi mai maua. Raftai.
Yeah, Malo. See, and this is the thing, Easy G. We don't disagree that rugby is really big in New Zealand, but what do we mean by really big? Does everybody know about rugby? Yes. Is everyone spending money on rugby? No. Right? And
Well,
that's the difference. That's the difference that we're thinking
Tua,
about.
just to add to what you were saying, they're not spending time viewing the product. They're not
Yeah.
viewing it because most of the money comes from TV and sponsors putting to advertise on the TV with the halftime
Getting the
show or the
eyeballs. Yeah.
pregame and the postgame shows. They're not they're not getting enough viewership for companies to spend money to advertise on the rugby games, because that's how they get their money. But even that, what you said, spending money with the merchandise, that's one. But two, just the simple viewership is not even getting there. Tua.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and even just attendance, right? That was
Attendance, yeah.
one of the things. That's one of the things that really made Moana Pacifica a phenomenon this year. Attendance, and not just attendance, but like the crowd was into it. They were cheering, they were jumping. It's like the Moana Pacifica product was at a high level. Why? Ardie Savea was the lead. He was the face of the franchise. And then he had a lot of really exciting young talent. I think that Tauboy Folau, Is that what's his name? That
Yeah,
young kid. There were like
yeah. The
3 or 4
winger.
young. The
Yeah.
winger. You also had he has like a Italian name, but he played for the Ikaleo
Oh,
Pellegrini,
Pellegrini.
right? I mean, there were a handful of young, talented players. There's another Samoan guy that I can't remember, kind of came out of nowhere directly from Ha'amoa. So you
Miracle.
have this face of the franchise, like we're talking about. This model is you have a face of the franchise, and then you have exciting new talent right coming up with him, and that gets the community involved, right? That gets everyone excited, and they feel like when the team wins, they win. Why? Because they have an emotional attachment to the players.
Mm-hmm.
That is when Steph Curry's happy, every Warriors fan is happy. When Steph Curry is sad, every Warriors player is sad. They're secretly living their lives through it's like their players are their avatars, right? And there is an emotional connection to it. Right now, Super Rugby doesn't have enough of those connections in the players on all the teams. You go and watch the NRL, there are players on each team that people are emotionally tied to. Granted, they can still improve a little bit in the NRL,
Yeah.
but Jason Taumalolo at his peak, every North Queensland Cowboy fan, they loved watching Jason Taumalolo because why? At any given time that Jason runs with the ball, he's about to break it, or he's going to run over someone, or he's going to do something that gets people excited, right? And they get invested they live through the players. Rugby Union, yes, it's big, easy G, but there's no emotional commitment for viewership. Like Masi was saying, I am so tied, invested in the team, I'm going to watch every game. I'm going to attend any game that I can possibly attend. I'm living through the players. Hopefully New Zealand Rugby can figure it out, because what Moana Pacifica showed is it can be done, because that's what Moana Pacifica. The only problem is they were only able to do it for 1 year, and they're only able to do it with that one player and that one team. They need to figure out how to duplicate that, but I don't have a lot of faith in World Rugby, and I don't have a lot of faith in NZRU to figure that out anytime soon.
Well, even NZRU, I was just thinking too, and you can give me your thoughts here. And I would even say even the Australian rugby stuff, they can do a lot better. Because I would say if I'm the NZRU, you know what I'm gonna do? Who's probably the face of the All Blacks? I'm gonna start probably Ardie Savea is probably should be the face of the art. So what I
That's the
would do
easy
is
one, yeah.
I'm gonna put my resources that he is the face of the All Blacks. I'm gonna get him
Yeah.
as much interviews and everything with
Media,
support
social
media
media.
everywhere. We're gonna make him the face. So our resources. That's what I would do if I was the CEO or the board chair member of the NZRU. That's the first initiative I'm gonna do. Make Ardie Savea the face. And if I'm with the Australian Wallabies committee of how they do it, ARU, if that's what they're called, who I'm gonna make the face of the Wallabies? I'm gonna make that Sua'ali'i kid. What
Yeah.
that came from league. Some
Joseph
of the highlights,
Sua'ali'i.
Joseph Sua'ali'i. Apparently he's killing it for how short he's. Look at that. That's two Ha'amoa kids that should be the face of their respective national teams. And because one, they have a flair. I've noticed they have a good engagement with the public, especially Ardie Savea. Like you need somebody who's very talented, mind blowing, and has exceptional skills. Dude, make them the face. And I'm telling you, that's gonna allow you to be better than whatever position you're in at the moment. I mean, I'm just saying. What do you think of my
No,
initial thoughts?
100%.
Initial thoughts for
100%.
Australian rugby and NZRU.
100%. I would probably do the same thing if Australian Rugby Union understood what they were doing. You know who they could have had in that position 8 years ago?
Who's that?
Israel Folau. they would have thrown
Yep.
all the resources behind Israel
Yep.
Folau.
He was
But
the
they got
face
a
of the
little
Wallabies.
too
Yes.
political, right? They got a little too political. They didn't worry about how do I make our product better? How do we have our fans connect with our players and make the players the face of the brand? They got a
Hmm.
little too political, and that opportunity was wasted. Now they got to take this Sua'ali'i. They paid a lot of money for him, so they obviously believe this guy is the future. Go all in, make him the face of the brand. Like, put him on social media. Go
Yes.
take him to when I was it
Fly
I
him
show
to all
speed.
whatever. Fly him to any interviews or events that are gonna have the national media. Like, there's gotta be. You gotta do a lot more. Like what you're saying.
No, 100%. Like, was it I show speed that live
Oh,
when he went to New Zealand?
yeah.
He went to the Warriors. When
He
he
went to the
went
Warriors,
to Yes.
not to the All
And then
Blacks.
when
That's
he
mind blowing, right? Because
yeah,
they say New Zealand is the
is the
national
All
team, but
Blacks.
here you have iShowSpeed, who's millions on views when he does the live stream. He didn't even go to the All Blacks. He went to the NRL team, and that just shows you where the trending is going. That's a good indicator
Yeah.
where the trending is going. Because now American views, or not his global views from iShowSpeed, is gonna follow Warriors a lot more than the own New Zealand national team.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. So if it was Artie Savea and I Show Speed shows up in New Zealand, I'm getting Artie Savea time with I Show Speed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, those are the things you do to
Yes, sir.
really drive involvement and get that stuff. Um, Wanted to get Shogun's comment here because he didn't have a direct comment on the super chat that he shared earlier, or the donation there for the Kava bag. Go ahead, Mr. Aotearoa. I want to read Shogun's comment.
All right. Shogun's comment here. Guys, I could watch paint dry over rugby union these days. Rugby league, though, excitement from kickoff to final whistle. What's your thoughts on Shogun's comment there, Dwar?
I am 100% on board, right? I mean, that excitement from that's why the NRL is thriving. That's why the NRL has salary caps, because there's
Mm,
so much money, and some clubs are making so much money. To try and make it an even playing field, they're adding salary caps, just like the NFL. I think the NBA doesn't have as much of a salary cap. But
they,
anyways, the point
yeah,
is,
they do.
but they have more like a luxury tax,
Yes, you're
right? So
willing.
you
Owner
can go
pays
well
more.
over it, you
Yes.
just tax. But so it's a type of salary. They're trying to infuse a salary cap penalty to drive it. But you know, that to me is 100%. I think league is ahead of the game. I
Yeah,
think
I agree
their
with Shogun.
game and their organization is consistently focused on how do we make our product more exciting, more entertaining, for the viewers and the fans.
Yeah. No, just to add on, Shogun is probably correct. I mean, I tend to watch a lot more league because one, they're more friendly player movement. I'm a fan of player movement. I don't like too many restriction. Their rules seem to be a lot better because it's a faster pace. It's not too confusing. Rugby union can get an inconsistency with one game of the other because I don't know if the refs are just having too many rules or it's a bit weird, especially with the breakdown part of union and stuff, and the scrum can kind of take a little while to move
Yeah,
along. But yeah, I mean, overall, to me, what's made me gravitate to league, it's the international game, just allowing player movement. That's what's really fully, because I was kind of 50-50 watching, but now it's kind of like 80-20, 70-30 with my attention with league compared to rugby union. But I just hope, union just needs an overhaul. I mean, dude, I mean, I didn't have a business degree to figure what I told you to when I said you make these guys the face of the game. And I'm
it's
telling you,
not rocket
if I was,
science.
it's not rocket science. It's just, I've seen what the NFL, which the NFL is the most valued sports organization in the entire world, even all the soccer teams in Europe, it's the NFL. And you know what the NFL and NBA does? They make the players the face of the franchise. And then if you're like a global superstar like LeBron James and like what is it, Michael Jordan, and even Jonah Lomu at his height, they'll be the face of the sport. Like that's how.
Yeah.
I don't know right now. Rugby has that. It's more of a wherever teams are at, but there's no global superstar yet for rugby that I can see. But I mean, that's just simple. I mean, but who knows? I could be wrong. Maybe they're figuring it out some other way.
What do we know? What do we know, right? We don't have access. We don't have access to government subsidies to just endlessly fund our ideas.
Hell yeah, boy.
All right. Well, and as always, we'll finish with our common statements, or the ideas we always share, is to be bold, stay curious, and don't be afraid to ask the tough questions, and let
Yes,
the
sir.
ideas compete. And with
Yes,
that being
sir.
said, peace.
Peace.